The Palace at the Bend, which is at 834 Chestnut Street in Philadelphia, PA, and we're here with author Mary Jones to discuss her novel, Summer Session. So, Mary, could you tell us a little something about yourself? That you like viewers to know.
I wasn't expecting that.
That's a very broad question.
Yeah. Well, I've been writing since I was a little girl. Right now I have 2 nonfiction books, 5 humor books, and 4, 8, 9 thrillers, suspense books. So, is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Because I could talk about other stuff too, but that's relevant. Yeah.
Relevant. Okay, and when you wrote Summer Session, how long does it typically take you to write that?
Summer Session was shorter time span than most of the books that I've written because the publisher wants a book every 6 months.
Wow.
And that's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, because this was my first book for them, it might have taken more like a year. It usually, the comfort for me is a year to 15 months. But because I do other things in the meantime, and I keep getting interrupted by life, this way, 6 months, you can't get interrupted by life. You just put everybody on the note, goodbye. You have no friends, you have no relationships, you don't go out to dinner, you don't travel. All you do. No, that's a sad story, but it's not true.
That's true.
No, it's not that bad. It's just pressure. And you can't finesse things the way you would. You can't get the nuance of every wonderful word the way you might want to.
Like, did you shack yourself up?
No, but not that bad. But I had to write pretty steadily, pretty pressured.
Okay. And this, I was wondering, this is a very good book. Very good book. Very good. And I really enjoyed the main character, Harper Jennings.
Yes.
I think she's like every woman's ideal woman, simply because of the way she handles situations, because we have our typical women, feminine, emotional, not themes, but moments. And I like when she was getting ready to crumble most of hers, but then she pulled her back together.
And that gets explained more in subsequent books in the series, that you find out how she's that way and why she's that way. But it's enough to know she's that way. I mean, she's not a Vietnam, I'm dating myself, she's an Iraq War veteran. So she's been around some tough stuff. And it's funny how she emerged, though. I was talking to my editor at the time about what I would write next. And she said, well, everybody loves animals, so why don't you write maybe a vet, So I talked to my agent about it, and they said, oh, well, the editor said she'd be interested in a story about a vet. And she said, that's right, Iraq. And she took it as the other kind of vet. So that's how, she was supposed to be, she was supposed to be a veterinarian, but my agent got excited about her being a war vet, which really there aren't that many tales of female war vets.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's how that came from, where that came from.
Where did you get the peculiar name Harper Jennings? How did you come up with her name?
I'm trying to remember. I remember wanting it to be something androgynous, not real feminine. And you know what? I totally do not remember. I know there's an answer, but I think I heard the name Harper somewhere, and I thought maybe that's how, maybe I just grabbed it. I have no idea. I'm sorry. Should I make something up? My great-uncle's name was Harper, and I don't know.
Nope, you gave an honest answer.
Too late.
She was a very well-developed character. What was the process that you used to develop her?
Yeah, for me, I have to live with them for a while. That's why 6 months is not enough time. But this being the first one, it did take longer. what I did was take her situation and figure out who would be in that situation. In other words, who would be in the army as a woman? Who would fight a war as a woman? And then, given that she has been in the war, how has that shaped her? So she does have PTSD, post-traumatic stress. She does suffer from that. But she's trying very hard because she wants to control her situation. And she wants to be strong, and she has expectations of herself. So that's why she's back in school. And then I went to Cornell, so she's in my alma mater. So I was able to put in pieces of that place into her character, too, a little bit. I wanted her to be married. I wanted her to be trying to live a normal life. But she can't.
Right.
I mean, she's
haunted with the flashbacks. I feel so bad. I love how you like you can sit there like she smells smoke.
But that's what happens.
Exactly,
Something
right.
will trigger. And I used poetic license or whatever you call it.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that flashbacks really happen as I portray them, but for the sake of the book and the sake of trying to draw attention to post-traumatic shock, stress syndrome, rather. I took a little leeway. It's really, as it turns out, epidemic among our veterans who served. And I don't think it's only veterans by any means. I think people live with things that have happened to them and have shaped them, and they get these recurring after effects that are from rough things in their past. So I thought people could relate to it even if they hadn't been in a war. Right.
It was just the way it was like you were living in the moment with her.
Oh, good.
She smelled
Good.
smoke, you smelled smoke.
That's good.
You knew that was
going to happen.
About to happen,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
That's great.
So I could say to myself, oh well, she has post-traumatic stress disorder. How is the author going to, make you relive it with her? And you definitely executed that well, because I was in the moment with her. I was in the bush with her, covered in dirt.
Yep. Shooting a stick. Oh,
Right.
I shouldn't even tell about it because people watching me know that.
Like, when I was with her. And what sparked your interest into writing mystery novels? I know you were writing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could say it two ways.
Mm-hmm.
First is, I think, I relate to mysteries because I think life is a mystery.
Right.
And we never know what's going to happen when, and we all know we're not going to get out of here alive. We know something's going to happen to us. I think that danger, in a way, or threats are really around us all the time.
Right.
And so, in a mystery, you can face them through another character. In a series, you know that character's going to make it out.
Exactly.
And order of some kind will be restored, maybe not perfectly, but you get that vicarious identification with danger that isn't really going to danger. I mean, and you live through it. That's one thing. But personally, so I've always I liked mysteries always. But then, about, I forget how long ago, a decade now, my husband got a really nasty kind of cancer. Esophageal, and most people who get it don't survive. I think they're doing better now, but anyway, he's still with us, but we didn't know that he was going to be. And I would be with him in the hospital, and I'd feel completely helpless. And, so I went home, and I started writing something that I could control the evil force. I could control the bad guys. I could control them if I wanted to, and it was a way of dealing with that feeling of being helpless. I started to put my anger and feeling of helplessness into the writing and take control. You know, it was in a way that way therapy, but it really wasn't. And one thing I've noticed, like her husband is injured, and in the books, the series I wrote before this one, often the man gets hurt, and I'm thinking that was not conscious. I think it's a result of writing when my husband was so sick, and I just kind of get it out by having him be injured and survive, and injured and survive. But he isn't him; it's the character. But still.
I mean, with the process.
Yeah.
It was, that's really interesting. It's interesting. I have to look at
And I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize it until much time had passed and somebody said something to me and I said, you know, you're right. And I kind of figured, well, it's not that subtle. It's not that deep. It's probably pretty clear.
Some of the settings you mentioned in your novel, you mentioned Ithaca, Iraq, Chicago, Paris, you've mentioned briefly, but have you been to most of these places?
I grew up in Chicago. I went to school in Ithaca. The series before this one takes place in Philadelphia, the Zoe Hayes series.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of familiar places there. But yeah, I think it's important. In fact, I had to go back to Ithaca to remember where everything was before writing this.
Right.
Because it had been a while.
Blue, white,
Yummy.
red, orange, white.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
He had a cameo.
thank you.
Yeah, that was in a movie when someone comes on and says a short piece and walks out. That's a cameo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what was my question?
Something about locations was the last one.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. Oh, it was about research. How extensive was your research? Because there's a lot of medical conditions.
Lots of research.
Narcoleptic, apoplectic, or
Brain injuries, aphasia. And I had to research what it was like to be in the army in Iraq.
Right.
And find out like what they carried in their, how much weight they carried with them, and what they carried, and what it felt like to be there. Like you could find out about the war, but do you know that the sand is always so fine that it's coating the skin all the time? You always have that feeling. And I mean, the flies that they buzz everywhere, they get around your eyes and stuff.
I like how you described it about the sand, how it, you know, as her being an archaeology major, how the sand swallows up relics and, you know, things of the past, and she felt that's what inspired her.
She felt the war would be swallowed up. The time she was in, anything horrible would be swallowed up in anyway. Yeah. I like that too.
I like that. Oh, nice God. And let's see, you answered most of my questions, but there was one more. What do you think makes a good story?
Well, some people would say it's about the characters. Some people would say it's about the plot. For me, I know that I'm reading a good story when I forget that I'm reading a story. So it's a question of transporting, for me, of transporting you when it becomes real.
That's a good answer. That's a very good answer. And we're going to wrap it up, and see you soon. Once again, get this book by Mary Jo, Summer Session. It is wonderful.